one dynamic personality. Of course, Sir needs no introduction, but please let me have the pleasure to talk a little about him. Hotelier par excellence, Mohan Kumar PK, fondly known as PKMK, a Paul Harris veteran, is a mentor at Hospitality Ki Pathshala and a well-respected and recognized personality in the Indian hospitality space. PKMK has spent over 45 years in senior leadership positions with the Taj Hotels IHCL worldwide. A hardcore operations specialist, he is perhaps the only hotelier in India whose multi-decade expertise spans the luxury, premium mid-market, and economy brands of hotels and resorts. Mohan Kumar has been actively involved in the Indian Industry and Hospitality Trade Forum as Advisory Board Chairman Tourism and Hospitality for AHPWI. He is the STAL International Leader, Asia Area Director, PR and Communications on the board of Luxury Leisure Resorts, Evolve Back Orange Country Resorts Limited. Sir contributes regularly to the media, ET, hospitality, business world hotelier, etc. We welcome you, sir. Over to you. The floor is now yours.
Yeah, thank you and good evening to all of you. Thank you so much, and good evening to you. And thank you so much, Simran. And good evening to all of you. First of all, I want to, you know, acknowledge the invitation by Pradeep ji, and I'm really privileged and pleasure to be a part of this whole entire movement. And I suppose this is a time when India is going through the biggest challenge of its existence since post-independence. So in that sense, I think Pradeep ji, and I like to call him Pradeep ji, has been a visionary, and a lot of us have been inspired by his whole thought process, his mission, his genuine desire to do something for the hospitality industry. And I also want to acknowledge Mr. Arun Nair, who has been a long-time colleague of mine. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It's extremely relevant. You really portrayed a very positive picture of the hospitality industry, despite all the challenges that our industry is going through at the moment. But this is transient. This is purely temporary. These are part and parcel of existence of any sector, any industry. So therefore, in that sense, we must, our entire thinking should be towards the future, optimistic and positive and confident. We are in fact world's most resilient population society in the world. So in that sense, I think we can together, of course, bring in a lot of opportunities. Look for the opportunities. This is the time to actually think, put on a thinking cap and see where all can I actually sort of take stock of what is happening in the industry. Go for an introspection and see where all can we bring in a new wave of hospitality growth in this country, as much as consolidating the existing Indian industry, image of the hospitality industry. So in that sense, I think this is perhaps the best time for all of us to come together. And what I'm going to do is actually just sharing my thoughts and in a very collaborative manner. So let me just begin with the macro picture. So if you look at India, and especially when we are talking about that, oh yeah, the hospitality industry has a lot of future, there's a lot of prospects, it may sound a bit weird at a time when a lot of almost 80 to 90% of the industry is going through a major survival phase. However, if you look at it from a macro picture, India's share of the tourism market in the world is still in single-digit number, right? However, when it comes to the top 10 destinations of the world, India is there, right there, as among the top 10 destinations in the world. So what does it speak? It speaks that India actually has enormous potential as a tourism destination, as an investment destination, as a business destination. So in every way, we are a large country with a very vibrant population, with the only country in the world that actually has a huge demographic dividend. So in every way, this is our century. This is our time to really wake up, stand up, and see how we can maximize our potential. So if you look at that 5% share, and then you look at the potential of the destination, even for business tourism, what is our infrastructure? The kind of infrastructure that we have is in terms of the number of rooms that this, altogether, we have about 29 lakh rooms. And whereas in terms of branded hotels, it's only just 2.5 lakhs. That's 250,000 rooms. That's all. The rest of them all are in the unbranded space. That means most of them are run by families and independent hotels, which are not necessarily classified. So you certainly have an unorganized sector, but a very vibrant sector in terms of family independent hotels. And then you also have this 250,000 rooms coming under, almost about 100 plus brands across the country. And in terms of the domestic market, we are obviously the largest middle class market in the world, in a democracy, right? So, and it's growing. So it has all the ingredients. It has got every ingredient that's possibly required for making an industry like the tourism, hospitality, travel, airline, which in my view is definitely an integral part of infrastructure. Because today, business travel, or even holiday for that matter, both in terms of your personal travel as well as also in work-related travel, you need to have a lodging. You need to have both lodging and boarding, right? Yeah, that's modern travel for you. So you need airlines, you need ground transport, and you also need some place to stay, right? And you're talking about almost 80% of India's population being between the age group of 18 to 38, exposed to internet, exposed to the whole world. They don't necessarily have to travel anywhere in the world, but they already are aware, highly informed. Therefore, in that sense, to that extent, they're very aspirational. Today, in many ways, their lifestyle is totally embraced by the Western style. So, there are so many positives, and so therefore, the market is very fertile. In terms of the capacity to build additional capacity, it's all there. So where is it that our strength lies? Our strength lies in our people. We have an ancient culture of being hospitable, right? Adudobe Deva Bhave is our motto, right? So that means guest is God. So we follow the Eastern philosophy of warmth and also courtesy, politeness, and also building relationships. So in that sense, the DNA of every Indian is actually naturally there, present in terms of being a great hospitality person. Everyone actually can be a like the way the government of India and lots of tourism ads have come, that every one of us is a tourist ambassador for our country in terms of a foreign tourist or a foreign visitor who comes to India. Having said that, how do we actually look at this sector as a sector that can actually create huge level of employment? We have the potential. This is a labor-intensive industry. Thank God for it, because with the advent of technology and automation that's happening across the world and also India, there is always this huge threat for jobs and employment. But when it comes to the hospitality sector, there are many roles in a hotel or a resort or any tourism product where human being, the service, the presence of human being, the physical presence of human being cannot be substituted. So therefore, a lot of us who have spent our lifetime in the hospitality industry very firmly believe that there is enough raw material in this country. It's all about getting, initiatives, creating platforms, and ensuring that there is a coordinated effort to identify talent in this across the country, both in terms of urban area as well as rural area, and see that there are given opportunities to get themselves skilled. So now I'm coming to the skill part. So now, what is hospitality ki pathshala? aims to become Atmanirbhar Bharat and self-dependent. That means we are going beyond employment. We are talking also about entrepreneurship. Hospitality ki Pathshala believes on Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and hence focuses on skill development of smaller villages and hassle-free admissions. So we are also talking about, in online training programs today, geography is neutral, right? That's the power of technology. You can you probably in one location and share your knowledge, your training techniques, your skills across the country. Yes, it is a challenge that more than nearly about for half 40% of the India's population still not connected to the internet. But then I suppose that could be one of the priorities for India in terms of digitalizing India. So that's all going to happen parallelly in terms of creating that a massive infrastructure development. So therefore, along with that, we are now talking about how do you look at hospitality as a source of employment? And so let me begin with at the skill level. In the hotel industry, there are these frontline jobs and also heart of the house jobs. You can, as the hierarchy, the organization is always in a hierarchy form. So if you look at the pyramid, you always have the base of people who actually are semi-skilled and skilled, right? Unskilled is now no longer there. Yeah, even someone who actually works for the kitchen stewarding, who is actually in charge of all the automated dishwashing and cleanliness and hygiene of the surroundings and public areas. They're all, the machines are now replacing a lot of manual work. However, these machines also need well-trained, highly skilled operators, right? Across the hotel, there are so many equipments which are electronic gadgets and a spectrum of automized equipments and gadgets and devices and systems that actually needs specialized skill. So it's no longer the old conventional hotel operations. It is going to be, therefore, you need training. So let's begin with that, the young boys and girls who actually work studying schools across the whole country. They are our potential. That's the target audience, right? So this target audience, there's a big challenge, and I want to address this in this particular forum. And if there are media or anyone who wants to write about it, kindly make a note of this. A boy or girl in a 10th standard, there are different levels of matriculation that happens in India. You have the CBSE, you have the ISC, and then you also have the SSLC or SSC, which means actually a lot of the boys and girls, let's say from the rural area and from the financially challenged sections of the society, they normally try to struggle to study up to 10th standard. So that is the age of 16, 15 or 16, right? So but however, you can only be employed at the age of 18. So there is a huge gap. This is where we have to actually represent. The industry has to, appeal to the government through its lobby to the government, through its faith or FHRI or any of the organizations, that this is the big challenge. Because what really happens to the girls and boys is they pass out at the age of 16. Then, like for example, the Taj, I have set up a Taj skill center at the Taj Westin here in Bangalore, along with the with a Stride, the Tata Skills Development Company. Yeah, the biggest challenge for us is they're recruited at this age at 16. They're taught these programs, apprenticeship programs, both in cookery, housekeeping, and also in food and beverage service. But by the time they are getting into the hotel, they are not eligible to work in a working premises because of the underage. They're still 17. So this is, we are trying to see if they can actually be taken in as apprentices. But this is also a major discouragement for the boys and girls. What they say is that instead they tend to go in for unorganized sector, daily wage labors. So when we talking about launching a program like this, trying to grope in thousands of boys and girls who can come in and avail of this online program, which are highly at a subsidized level, and also which will cover those skills, housekeeping, which means you can immediately get employment as a room boy or a room housekeeping assistant in a hotel, or as a food and beverage service. You can become a banquet steward, you can become a restaurant steward. You can actually, there are different levels of employment, entry level employments that the hotels are desperately looking for across the country, not just the hotels, as Mr. Arun Nair said. It goes much beyond hotels, resorts, and let's say service apartments and those kind of things, catering establishments. We are now talking about hospitality becoming a services sector industry. So anyone who is skilled enough in the hospitality sector at the skill level or at the supervisory level or even at the managerial level can actually look for employment beyond hotels, resorts, into banks, into the armed forces, naval, catering establishments, into aviation, into cruise lines, then also hospitals. Today, even the hospitals actually are virtually in need of hospitality professionals, because apart from the non-medical areas of private care hospitals, India is, ever since healthcare was privatized, a lot of healthcare private hospitals have come up in the country, and they all need to be run very professionally. And who else is better qualified than the skilled and highly educated, knowledgeable hospitality staff? So therefore, I think, but I'm confident that when it comes to joining the industry, okay, anyone who is either passed out from school or college or graduates, they have to understand that this is a job, this is an opportunity, this is a sector where the whole world is actually the job market. Anywhere in the world, you are in need. And India, our dream is to make India the hospitality capital of the world. When I say hospitality capital of the world, I mean the software, the soft superpower. India actually would obviously is better placed to become the soft superpower of the world. And when I'm talking about soft superpower, I'm talking about the soft skills. I'm talking about knowledge power. India, that's where India is actually excelling, right? So, and hospitality could be one among those, knowledge sectors or skill sectors that can actually provide provide a lot of skilled workers and white collar jobs to overseas markets across Europe, across the continents, in aging populations across various continents. I think the Indian tradition, the Indians are very well suitable to become very successful in the hospitality industry. Having said that, let me get back to what exactly is this Pathshala. So we are talking about creating the syllabus. What we have in mind is very practical and very job oriented and industry related, very relevant topics that will be taught online, both in terms of theory as well as also later in practicals. This is an industry that actually relies less on theory and more of demonstrative, audiovisual, coaching kind of methodology. So therefore, that's obviously a challenge in online. But what really is we are filling in a gap. What is that gap? The gap is today, we are trying to course correct historically what has been the case in terms of the skilled workers. If you look at the last few generations of skilled people in the hotel industry, they're all those who have, either dropped out from school, who have actually migrated to big cities and then got into jobs as casual laborers, daily wagers, and then eventually becomes, stewards and housekeeping boys, cooks, and different and other departments, bellboys, security guards, a whole lot of them in the guard, But what happens today is, you have to have some kind of a formal education. I would like to stress here that language skill is one of the most important skills in the hospitality industry. And especially when it comes to English or any other foreign languages or Indian, obviously Hindi or English, as is probably very good for India. But if there is so much of overseas opportunities that you can also must learn, languages like French, or German, or Japanese, Chinese, for that matter, right? Why? Because those are the kind of markets which are developing, which are growing, which are very developed markets as well as developing markets, which actually offer amazing opportunities for a lot of Indians who are qualified. Because as Mr. Arun Nair also mentioned, that it is in our DNA in terms of service, in terms of warmth, in terms of actually the resilience, in terms of even fulfilling all the criteria of the hotel industry in terms of long hours of work, the ability to tolerate a lot of extra work, a lot of that stress and strain that you go through, whether it's in the kitchen food production or in the food and beverage services or in the housekeeping. So in that sense, so far it's been more of learning from the shop floor. However, that is not enough. Today, in the new contemporary world, where skills means also communication, skills also mean, there's a scientific way of doing things. There is an organized way of doing things. So therefore, a formal education is extremely important. Formal training, even if you want to become a good steward or a housekeeping assistant, right? In a modern contemporary room where a lot of gadgets and there is also a lot of time pressure. There's also, this whole thing about right sizing of human manpower to the room ratios, right? Where there's cost is involved. And besides the fact that even the labor cost is also gone up. So you're being better paid. So therefore, the industry expects today at entry level, skill level people also to be knowledgeable in terms of communication skills, in terms of soft skills, and also lifestyle skills, right? So how do we give this to thousands of Indians who are very aspirational, who are, but they are financially weak? And incidentally, like the Indian cricket team, where did it start? It started with Sunil Gavaskar and Sachin Tendulkar in Bombay and Delhi and those kind of places. Kapil Dev. Then, of course, Kapil Dev came from the rural India. So today, half of Indian cricket team, the one who won the match in Australia, they're all coming from rural India. Look at that. So therefore, there's a flattening of opportunities across the country. So similarly, there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of talent that are there in the Bharat, in the rural India. But they are looking for platforms like ours where they can actually acquire skills, learn skills. There's a huge appetite and hunger for them to join an industry like the hotel industry. But the hotel industry today, which is so competitive, the domestic brands or hotel companies in India are now pitted against the best of the world. India is that way globalized. It is now seamlessly connected to the rest of the world. Therefore, Indian companies have to compete with the best of the American and European companies, right, or Asian companies, and they all come with the heavy process system-driven, SOP-driven kind of environment. Their whole organizational culture. So they're very systematized. So even if it's actually a steward or a cook or a room boy or a bellboy or anyone for that matter, a security guard, for instance, today security, safety, hygiene, all that is dependent on automation, touchless, contactless kind of environment, right? Right from the time when you get out of the car, today a post-pandemic, post-COVID era is going to be all a lot of gadgets. So how will a guard or porch guard at the entrance be knowledgeable, will be confidently operating and presenting himself with these devices? So it needs formal training. It's not enough of just only hotel training, which is actually sort of more of an ad hoc random thing. So online programs that we are planning to do actually consists of not only the traditional syllabus, but also incorporating the modern, keeping in mind what is today's industry's specific needs. So it involves engineering, it involves electronics, it involves obviously computing skills. Then it involves a little bit of, supervision and management also, because we want these boys and girls who join at this level, they have They are post-independent, post-millennial generation. They have no class difference. Their aspirations to become the general manager of the hotel, and they can. I don't think there is any difference, distinction that we have to draw between somebody joins in as a steward or a room boy and why, or a girl in the front office who cannot aspire to become the general manager of a hotel. It's all about how India and how this particular initiative taken by Mr. Pradeep Ji brings about that that level of ability, that tutorial ability, that the way this online program is going to be successful. If it has to be successful, it has to be effective, right? The how do you measure the effectiveness? Effectiveness is measured by the for the first batch of these kind of boys and girls who will be trained, and when they get into the hotels, and how they perform is actually the measure in which we can assess how effective these online programs are. We have incorporated industry-specific needs in our syllabus, but primarily talking about basic theory. You need to know the basics of, let's say, cooking, whether it's science and art and the skill. Then the for 5 W's: what, when, why, how, where. When and how. The students have to ask this question and find answers for these things. For every skill set, every particular chapter that is being taught to them. For example, let's say in the case of a steward, right? There are different types of services that one has to teach them. It's about banqueting, a la carte service, restaurant counter service. Today, actually, even you're talking about home delivery services, right? With all the PPP and various measures that one has to take in protecting oneself, and also getting over to house, doing service in the house. So there are new sets of skills that are becoming the challenge of the day. Having said that, we call upon a lot of industry professionals. All those who are listening into this session, I would appeal to them to volunteer and reach out to us to actually spend some time and support this whole movement in terms of giving your inputs, giving your knowledge, giving your skills, communicating and interacting with these young boys and girls and giving them a future. So in that sense, I think we have an excellent initiative. We would also say that let me also just deal with entrepreneurship. It's not only about creating jobs and looking for employment. We are also looking at how do we actually make these youngsters learn the art of starting your own business, because that, in a sense, actually could also be a substitution for the challenges of automation that are happening in the industry. A lot of them are probably going to, those, especially after the post-pandemic phase, there are many who are going to be displaced from their traditional jobs, but they don't have to worry. They have to acquire the skills of entrepreneurship. How do you start a business? Simple thing like making a nice South Indian coffee, filter coffee, or a good chai, or single product business. It could be like I'm in Bangalore. I know of a lot of these small hole in the wall kind of outlets which are run by mom and pop. They can be taken over by their son or daughter and then continue the business. It's just a single product business. It could be any of the South Indian breakfast item. It could be just a simple thing like a burger, bread products. See, it's all about how to create the business model. And that's where we will actually be teaching these youngsters how do you acquire the skill. How do you start at a very small level, with the minimum investment, and teaching them the nuances of what are all the elements that make a successful business, right? You have to be in the right place. You have to assess your market target group and see what is the kind of product, or what is the missing items. What is it that you will sell in a particular locality, in a business hub, or in a uptown area, or in a downtown area, or in a housing colony. So there are many innumerable opportunities that are there for whole lot of entrepreneurship. in India. It could be actually not only just make outlets, restaurants, or getting it could be on facility management. It could be in home care services. It could be on security services. Someone who is already skilled in the hotel knows the methodology, the customer relationship quotient, and also even human resources thing. How not to exploit the guards who are to do 18 hours and 12 hours and 14 hours. Make sure that there is a certain amount of information that comes in. So there is, professionalism. You bring in professionalism into your business. When you bring in your that knowledge is what we will teach them. It's, we want to ensure that these online classes are employment potential, employment driven. So it will be very practical classes. It will actually be those subjects and topics and aspects which will actually be industry connect. So there is a match with what the specific needs of the industry are. So we would therefore, I would say in a sense that this is a program that is actually designed by hoteliers, by hospitality professionals. So I think at this point, I suppose I'll take in a lot of questions. Let's have an interactive session where we can have a collaborative kind of session here to understand how do we make these online programs very successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. And so you mentioned about right attitude and dropouts. With this, I remember the examples of Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Ma. They did not have. They were dropouts. They did not have the specialty, but they, with the right attitude, I think they are what they are, and which is what hospitality ki Pathshala focuses on. It focuses on your practicality and it focuses on your skills. It will your developed skills. Right. So with this, thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. And with this, I think we'll ending on a positive note. I would again like to quote Mr. Ratan Tata: "None can destroy iron, but its own rust can. Likewise, none can destroy a person, but its own mindset can." Being strong is the only mantra now. We have been so busy with our lives, we forget our inner peace and happiness. And hence, I think lockdown is the great time to utilize to kind of discover ourselves and our hidden talents. Never give up because great things take time. And therefore, I'm sure we'll have a great offline one-to-one event very soon. Thank you, Mr. P.K. Mohan Kumar,